All right, everyone, if you can hear my voice, please take a seat. We've got another great conversation happening for you. So I first met Phillips about a year and a half ago during the Fire in Little Africa sessions. We had journalists come in from all over the country to witness those recording sessions. Was one of those journalists. He and I have stayed in touch and become friends over the last couple of years, just chatting throughout the pandemic, processing life. Really excited for what him and Baisden have put together. This is a brand new book, The Culture Playbook. It's all about how to help independent artists succeed in the music industry. So any artists that are within earshot of my voice would love for you to make your way to the stage. But everyone, please give a warm welcome now to Phillips, Baisden, The Culture Playbook.
Thank you, Chris.
You guys great.
How y'all doing? How you doing?
I'm always amazing.
Yeah. It's your first time in Tulsa, right?
Definitely my first time in Tulsa.
So I'm Phillips. This is my partner, Baisden. We have a book. She got it right there.
Oh yeah, she already got it. She owned it.
Now the Culture Playbook. Tell them a little bit about what culture is, Ty.
When you're working and you're putting your life, you're betting your life on certain things, you want to find like something that you can kind of like wake up to every day. And so for the longest, when I was working in the music business, like managing producers or doing internship shit or whatever it was, I used to always see like these different banners like Cash Money, Rockefeller. And it was like, man, this is something that these black men and women are working behind. So for the longest, I was just working with no home. That's how I felt in my head because I didn't have like a mission statement. So I was in I had read this article about this production company. I can't remember the name of the production company, but there's two producers. They did a lot of records. They did like Black and Yellow for Wiz Khalifa. Like they did like pop produced Stargate. That's what it was. And I read that, cause they're like Swedish, some shit like that. And then they take December off, the entire month of December off. So I read that article probably like early 2017, and I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna start doing that shit. So December 2017, I had went to Maui, and I went to Maui to meet Shep Gordon, because he was like, yo, man, he live in Maui, and he's like a legendary manager. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Maui. I don't know if he's even gonna be there, but he told me he might be there. Just come. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna just come. But simultaneously, that is when the culture like hit me. When I was like that, like the way I wanted, I was like in Maui, and I was like, man, I want to really find something to build, so that I don't feel like I'm just working with artists. Because then it becomes like you become a slave to it, because it's nothing that you're putting a brand around. So that's where it like started, like the ideology of it started, and it was like this artist partnership type of concept. It wasn't until 8 months later that it hit me what it meant. I was on a flight. Me and my business partner Jane, we was on a flight somewhere, and I was writing, and it just hit me. Can our leverage teach us real equity? And then from there, that's kind of like when the story really began on like purpose. Because when we first did our first interview, it was no culture. Because that was 2017. Yes, sir. 3 months before I went to Maui.
I didn't know the timeline like that. Because me and Ty, we did our first interview together because we were looking to speak to somebody that had an independent music business. And we were just talking to managers. And Brent at the time had music out, starting to really bubble. And I got in contact with Ty, and it was an interesting interview because he spoke to me about the music business in a way that surprised me. I didn't imagine someone I never spoke to could be so transparent about facts. And when I say facts, I mean he's giving names, he's giving numbers, percentages, things you're not supposed to talk about on the record. And he just said it as if it was normal. because it was business. It was his business. So he didn't mind sharing that with me. And when we put that online, it moved. It moved. Can you tell them about where you were when that first interview dropped?
That shit funny. So I had just got back from New York. I went to New York on a Monday, and I got back to LA on a Tuesday, and I was meeting with this guy named Alex that owns this company called Sound Royalty, which is one of the unconventional loans in the book, partners in the book. And me, him, one of my mentors, Cersei, and a really good friend of mine, Diana Gordon, we was sitting down in West Hollywood, and he was really, really into her, like investing into her and trying to figure out how to help her business. Then my phone just started going crazy. And I was like, what the fuck? I looked at my notifications on Twitter, and it was like, you know how I don't know if anybody had their Twitter go crazy where it don't even say, it just say 100 plus. Like, well, after it get a certain number. And I was like, man, I hope this nigga Brent ain't said no Me Too shit or no, they gonna cancel this nigga ass. So I was like, man, I was afraid to even look at it because I didn't know when the article was dropping. I didn't know none of those different aspects. So when I looked at it and I clicked on a link and it was like Brent Faiyaz manager unveils the dark. I was like, oh, I just turned my phone off. I didn't look at the shit for the rest of the day. So that shit just going crazy. I didn't, the whole first day I didn't look at it. And then when I did actually look at it, my homie Dinah, she read it to me. As she was reading it, she was like, are you cool with them like saying all of this stuff? I was like, shit, I guess so. I don't know. Because for the record, I didn't know what off the record meant. I'm a country nigga. Like I was just talking because the way that the interview was framed to me was we're interviewing a bunch of managers and we're just seeing what everybody thinks about these different aspects of things. So I didn't know that you could record conversations like, because I was like, how did he go? We talked for like an hour and 30 minutes. How he gonna remember all of that? Like, so when it came out, I was like, wait a minute, this is okay, I guess. But it was one of those things where I didn't really trip off of it because I was just being honest. Yeah. And one of the biggest things from that article, besides me, Hov, but one of the biggest things from that article.
You met Jay-Z after that article. I haven't met Jay, and I wrote it.
He definitely wrote it.
Couldn't believe it.
But what was very, very loud about it is that for the next 3 years after that article, it would be people that work in the music business that would be like, before every call, it was to the point where and Jane, we didn't form a partnership until like June 2018. So she's new on all these calls, and she's just like, why the fuck they keep bringing up this article? Like every call, it was like every time it was like, man, I really appreciated that article, man. You was just being so truthful. And I was like, I never realized that being honest was like in this business was like that brutally like eye-opening. You know what I'm saying? And then it just really kind of gave me like a very clear understanding of what I'm dealing with when it comes to like this whole shit.
And you believe in sharing information.
Yeah, the only way.
You don't want to hide the facts, or you don't want to hide anything that can help somebody build their own business.
Yeah, because what has formed with hiding information is you're trying to have a better advantage over somebody. And in the Black community, hiding information, we don't understand how much it harms us, right? So if me and, this young lady, we're working at the same job, and both of us are we don't want to show how much we make, right? But we do the same job. And she makes 50, but I makes 85. But neither one of us want to share what we make. You can't solve a problem. You can't solve injustice in the workplace or anywhere if everybody's just hiding information. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this, and in this business where, I quit the music business in like 2009. I was like, oh, this shit is wicked. I'm finna go back to sports. These motherfuckers is mean. They don't like care about people. I'm out. And that was only being in it for like a year. I was like studying publishing, and like a year in, I was like, fuck this, I'm finna finish my degree and go back to sports. This is so I ran from it because of how like it just felt like it was so conniving and convoluted, and it's just taking advantage of young black artists and creators and young managers. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this shit. Fuck this.
What brought you back to it?
The NFL lockout. 2011. Remember that shit like yesterday? Yeah, I was in my last semester of college in 2010. So I started my management company as a sports management company in August 2010. So I had a client that was went to Kentucky. He got drafted 4th round to the Eagles. So I was like, yeah, fuck this. I'm out of this music shit. My homie I knew his brother. He just got drafted. Then I had coaches that was already coaching in the NFL that was helping me, introducing me to agents, because I was about to graduate. So I was looking to be like a runner or a scout for an agency. And everybody knew it that really was serious in that space. All of the big agents, they knew the lockout was happening, but they didn't know how long it was gonna happen. So by the end of 2010, they started like, no, we're not hiring. No, we're not taking nothing. No, we're not. They were just like blocking everything. So I was like, damn, this is crazy. And so when that happened, I started getting hit up by one of my homies that was telling me about this kid named Daddy Nino, who ended up changing his name to Forte Bowie. So that's what ended up happening because the NFL lockout happened. If the NFL lockout would have never happened, and it was the longest lockout in history today, in 2011. So that's what happened.
Crazy odds.
Crazy odds.
Another instance with you where the odds kind of changed is you were looking for a record deal. You were working with Brent at one point in time.
Yeah, everybody looks for a record deal when you don't know no better. Shit.
So when did you know better?
What you mean, now or then?
No. Up to the point where you decided that you weren't going to be getting a deal and that you were going to do it independently. No label.
So I had a meeting with Troy Carter when he was working at Spotify, and my mentor connected us. And this had to be end of 2016. Because Too Fast had just came out, and he was talking to us, and he was like, man, this type of music, R&B, this 90s feel is about to have a resurgence. So if you all can just really, really like build it and like leverage it so you can get the most favorable terms, that's what I would do. I wouldn't do no deal right now. And at the time we had about 3 labels that wanted to like sign. So when he told me that, I was like, well, shit, we could just do it independently then, or at that time I had offers out that I had like deal points that like, if they would have gave me everything that I asked for, would have did the deal. But they didn't. So it was like they didn't want to do any of those things. So I was like, okay, cool. We went on vacation, which was like November, December. We came back the top of the year of 2017, and the lawyer, Brent's lawyer, I was like, ask them would they do me $150,000 license deal, just one album, $150,000 all in. They don't even got to market that motherfucker. They can just put it out, and we'll deal with everything else. And she sent that proposal to the same labels that wanted to do us for like 4 or 5 albums type shit. And they was like, nah. So once they said that, because all I was trying to do is get the money to do the album. Once I realized that I could, by this time, like more money started coming in just because of like we had put out the Sunder stuff, like some of the project, the EP was starting to work. So we was making about, between Sunder and Brent's solo stuff, we was making about $5,000 to like $9,000 a month, give or take, and trying to invest. And then we had some shows during that same time. All I was trying to do is get the money so that we can pay for the album, to do the album in the Dominican Republic, because that's where Brent wanted to do the album at. But once I realized that Airbnb kind of like let you like do payment plans, so I could just book the spot, I just needed to have more time. So once I realized that I could just book everything based on like over a 3-month period and pay for everything, then I was like, well, fuck the label. You know what I'm saying? We're just gonna figure it out at this point because I figured out how to move the money around.
At what point did you know that you never had to, or you'll never need a label to support what you and Brent were building with Culture, or with Velocity? Is my bad.
Well, I kind of knew that before we dropped "Fuck the World." The thing about this approach is that the artist, the manager, everybody on the team has to understand and believe the same thing, right? For the longest, I'll have always been the one that's like, nah, we can do it ourselves. I'm telling you, let's do this. And if let's open up this, let's open up. I've always had to convince everybody. It wasn't like Brenda tell you, he wasn't thinking about independent or major. He was just trying to be an artist, right? And so the only reason that I knew that we didn't need a label to do a lot of things because the world got smaller through the internet, through streaming. I have all the relationships that a major label would have when they got to call somebody. So once we started realizing that we can get the money, now we just was looking at it like, okay, cool. Now we can go territory by territory. So if we go territory by territory, taking over these territories, learning these territories, learn how you market your art in these territories, within a 5 to 7 year period of having fan bases on those territories, by the time we look up, we're 7 years in and we have a system globally on how we can build our business. Because that's all the major labels did. They just had more time. We want it fast. As humans, Americans, should I say. We want it fast. So whatever the fastest way we can go about it, let's do it. But I just felt like if I can go through all the steps in each country and learn it, then I can teach it. And if I can teach it, that means that the information is going to be out and people are going to have the choice to say, I'm going to go with a major label or I'm going to go with an independent route or build my own company. That's really what it is. Well, it's the build my own company route. It ain't really independent because when you start operating and you start moving them numbers, that shit ain't independent no more. You know what I'm saying? Like the tax bills ain't independent. The fucking graphic designers, they ain't talking to you like you're independent. They charge you like you're a major label or they want to, you know? So you're just going a route to build your own business in a more vertically integrated way. And that's really what it is. And one of the things that, me and Brent did always agree on was like, we didn't want being independent to look dusty and broke. You know what I'm saying? Because then that discouraged people. It's a way to not go broke, but still have your shit looking tasteful. You know what I'm saying? So we as, culturally black people, we know how to make anything look tasteful, no matter how much money we have. So I was like, well, if we can take this approach, take the business of R&B, which is a slow developing process. It's not fast and exploding like rap is. So you got to slow grind and slow growth it. If we can do that and make it look how it's supposed to look and match what other artists are doing that signed to major labels in that same kind of fan base or trajectory, then you can't really tell the difference. There's people still to this day that don't realize that I was just talking to Jazz Prince. He was like, y'all ain't signed? I was like, nah. Because it's to the point now where it's gotten so big. So I just look at all of this shit the same way I look at Obama. It's like now black people know that they can be president. Like if we keep being big as a small company and we're having market share, that means that people that are looking at it, even if they do decide to go to the major label route, at least there is an example that says that you can have a big album, you can tour, you can be seen everywhere. And you can be independent, you know what I'm saying? And you can build your own business. So it's all these like Martin Luther King type of seeds that's being planted. It ain't for the people today. It's for the kid that's 12, you know what I'm saying? Or 13.
In the Culture Playbook, when we sat down to write that, the plan was to look at the industry and begin, if you pick this book up, you could start building your business. Yep. And we talked about the uniform. And I was talking to somebody yesterday and I asked them, what do you think the rapper uniform is? And he said a chain. And I was like, it's not a chain. I mean, you get a chain, but what is the uniform? What is the first thing you need to start building your business?
Work ethic. That's the fucking uniform. Work ethic.
Well, what's
You
the
know?
first chapter of the culture playbook?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand, but you said discipline. Why? Why is discipline the most important thing to build a business?
Countrywide, we lack discipline. Before we even start talking about our community, the infrastructure that we're raised in lacks community. You know what I'm saying? Lacks discipline. Lacks community too, but that's another conversation. So the discipline aspect of it is so important because you can't get to point B from point A if you're dependent on somebody to carry you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't happening like that. That's anywhere in the world. No matter if it's a developed country or undeveloped country. If you gotta have movement in your life, it can't be because somebody is carrying you. The only time you should be getting carried is when you're in your mama's womb. That's about it. So discipline is very important in any business. That's the problem. That's why the music business is the most important natural resource to a human's mental grasp of the world. The day that if everybody in this room could not listen to music for a week, people may lose it. Like, they couldn't listen to no music. They had to just sit in silence for a week. And just imagine if that was something that had to happen globally for whatever reason. It's like a pandemic mentally. You know what I'm saying? So when you know that this is something that is that powerful, but it runs the world. But when you look at Apple Music, you look at all these different companies in the sectors, it don't run the world from the drive of revenue, right? It's because the entire industry lacks discipline. They overspend, they lack community. All the things that you see big tech startup communities have, the music business don't have it. They don't pool together resources. Like, they don't crowd. It's just so many different things. So when you start thinking about the discipline, you got to work, you got to research, you got to read, you got to have the discipline to stay with your team. The people that really care about you. When you, I was talking to this very, very, successful executive, and he has a distribution company. And he was telling me, like, man, if I was you, I'd have been came with me. Right? He said, I respect how loyal you guys are to your system. Because if I was you, I'd have been came with me. I understood what he meant. Right. But I'm like, I can't afford to come with you. It benefits me way more to fuck with you than it does staying over here. But the community is benefited way more staying over here. The community is not benefited by me coming to fuck with you because you just want to rock with me for what has been built. But you don't understand that none of this shit would have been built if I didn't have producers don't worry about it, bro. Don't pay me no money. I'll just eat on the back end. Y'all can come use my studio. You know what I'm saying? One of our producers that really started with us on Paperboy Fade, I was just talking to him the other day and I forgot he in 2017 we put out this record called Language. It was him featuring Brent. And that was our way to repay him. We gave him 100% of the royalties. That was our way to repay him because we recorded all our shit in his studio. In the early stages, 2015, 2016, we recorded everything, almost everything there. I was talking to this man the other day. He was like, that song brings him $10,000 a month. That one song. I was like, damn, for real? He was like, yeah, man, this shit keep growing. You know what I'm saying?
And you encouraged him to put that record out.
Yeah.
He had no music out on DSP prior to that.
No.
And at the time, Brent wasn't who Brent is now. But you still kind of gifted him that record as, hey, use this. So it's like us giving you something for all the work you put in, right?
100%.
And so Fabe's in the book because we interviewed a lot of Ty's partners. And I remember that conversation with Fabe because he was saying Language grew pretty slowly at first. It was making a couple $100 initially. Then it was a couple $1,000. Before he knew it, he was paying the rent at the studio just off that record alone.
That same studio we recording at. To this day, that studio's still there. So whenever I call him, I'm like, yo, I need to use the studio. He's like, all right, just bring your engineer. Whoever, don't matter who it is.
One song keeping the lights on.
One song definitely keep the motherfucking lights on. Yeah.
And I feel like that's what people don't understand what a record can do.
Yeah. We don't understand it because if you live at your mom's house and you wake up every day, your mom, your dad, you wake up every day, you go to school, food is there when you get home, food is in the refrigerator. You get like, all you know is it's there. You ain't had to go and pay no bill, you didn't have to do any of that different things. So like us as business people, one of the biggest things I always tell people when you want to go and build your business, you have to do it as your own company first, because when you go and you immediately sign with a major label, now you're in your parents' house. You don't know how many ways that record is making money. That record make a lot of money in a lot of different ways. And you would never learn that because you never just went out and tried to figure out how to, exploit those records. When No ID was courting us to do something, he was like, man, this is when I think probably before 444 came out. And we had a meeting when he was at Capitol, and he was like, man, everybody wanted to own the masters, and I get it. He said, but I asked every artist, what you gonna do with them? Like, you own them now. What you gonna do with them? Do you know how to exploit them? He said most of them don't even know what exploit mean. Outside of the negative connotation with it.
Absolutely.
He said, so what are you gonna do to sell your record since you own it now?
Right.
And when he said that, I was like, man, it's a bar. Because just saying I'm an owner and not having the knowledge and the education and knowing how those different things work is, it really lacks discipline.
A concept that I think about a lot is a chapter in the book where you talk about how every album is a house. Can you break that down for the people, what that means?
So when I'm thinking about the concept, when that concept came to me, it came because of this licensing aspect, right? Where you see these terms, you really don't see these terms nowhere but I haven't seen them nothing but like in music business or entertainment contracts. It's, perpetuity, right? So there are deals where a company will have a license on somebody's art forever, right? In perpetuity. So it triggered me to think, like, if I owned a building and I said, I want this property management company to come in and manage my building, would I give them a license to manage my building forever? Then it goes deeper where it's like, if I have the building or I have the house and I'm renting it out, because that's what a lease is, right? I'm leasing it to this label. I'm renting it out. I would never let my tenant convince me to let them stay in my house forever, right? So all of these things, people knew about houses before they knew about the music business. Absolutely. Even if they mom didn't buy a house, like if they rent an apartment, they know that you gotta have a lease. That lease usually ain't no longer than 2 years. If it's a commercial property, maybe 10. But these are really real conceptual things, right? Because public experience. So when I was thinking about the house, it made me think about when you have a record, there's two ownership aspects of a record. It is owning the masters and it's licensing the masters. You can own it, but if somebody got a lifetime license on it, you don't own it because you don't control it. So if I got a house that the bank, I got a loan with the bank. Once I pay that loan off with the bank, now I own the house. If I stay in the house, that means I control the house, right? I can control what goes on, how it looks inside. And being that I own it, I can stay in that motherfucker as long as I want, right? Because it's my house. So that's how I'm looking at albums. If I make the album and I control the license, That means that I can have this album and do whatever I want to do with the income that it brings me. I can rent it out if I want to. But if I do rent it out, I ain't gonna let a nigga live in my house forever.
I mean, I love that analogy so much because it's so simple when you break it down that way. And at times I feel like people kind of get hung up on the music industry about, because it's hard to find those reference points that makes it easily understood what you're dealing with.
1,000%.
And even when we were working on the Culture Playbook, we wanted a book that was going to deal with the essentials of the music industry. We didn't want to have something that spent so much time talking about jargon that would not be relevant to you if you have no idea what certain terms mean. We wanted to get straight to the heart of what you needed to know to build your business.
Yeah. We would have finished this book way faster, but it was your fault.
Oh, don't blame me. Don't blame me.
Because it had nothing to do with writing. He was basically being a journalist and was like, we got to figure out why people should listen to you. Like, who are you? And I was like, I don't give a fuck about that shit. Like, if they want to know, Google. But the information is so 8th grader to understand. It doesn't matter who the person is if they really want to learn. If you really want to learn, it doesn't matter who's giving you the information. If that information is feeding your desire to learn whatever you're doing. If a person is wanting to learn about the music business, they're reading so many books and collecting so many things. A lot of the people, they're probably not even going to remember who wrote what, unless it just was that impactful. And then when they did the research on the person, you know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that I was saying to Yo. I was like, it doesn't really matter. Like, and if it does matter, guess what? They're gonna find it, because people, when they want something, they desire it, they start like searching and Googling, and they start researching the people that's around it. And if there's something that's tainted or tinted or just a bad vibe about that information that they read, they're gonna find it anyway, good or bad. So I just wanted to really focus on like the words, because I think that's what happens in the music business. You only want to listen to the new artist because somebody that's popping said, you should check this out. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. To be fair, Ty didn't want to give no background about nothing. He didn't want to get no context. He wanted to get straight to the point. And I'm just like, you should tell them who you are, who Brent Fayez is. He didn't even want to use Brent's last name. He was like, me and Brent. Who's Brent? But again, I think once we had that conversation, it made it clear to me what his perspective on the book was. Because, you know, you working on something with somebody, you both kind of have a perspective that you're trying to go after something. And he was making it very clear to me that he wasn't trying to be an expert. He was like, I want someone to read this. If they got an 8th grade reading level, that they would be able to understand it. I'm trying to get like awards. I'm trying to make Tyler look like he's Steve Jobs. He was like, nah, nigga, I'm from Forest Park. Yeah, you know, but again, we worked it out.
Yeah, nah, it worked out. And I was talking with Jeff Dixon, Chaka's brother, before I went to Jamaica and really started like writing out the rest of the book from all of our conversations. And he suggested that I read this book called The Jewish Phenomenon, right? And I bought the book, but I never read it. And whatever it was in my book bag when I got to Jamaica, and I started reading it. And that book gave me the underlining writing tone for the Culture Playbook, which was delayed gratification. That's what that entire book was with the Jewish phenomenon, was delayed gratification. So it's like starting a business is delayed gratification. Investing money is delayed gratification. Going to school and finishing is delayed gratification. And it was like all of these different things that, you know, delayed gratification requires discipline. So that's why the book started with discipline, because I'm simultaneously reading this book while I'm writing the other book.
A part of the book that I really love is 100% of nothing is temporary.
Yep.
Why was that so important to have right after discipline?
I've heard this conversation like, you'd rather have 10% of something than 100% of nothing. Yeah. And I think us as Black creators and Black innovators, we've been pimped by listening to that shit. Like 10%, yes, if you got 10% of Apple when it's Apple, yeah. But Steve Jobs and the rest of them motherfuckers like Mark Zuckerberg, they didn't have 10% of Facebook when it became Facebook. They had a whole much more. And I think that we have to approach it as a full pie. And as time goes on, we exchange equity for information or for help. And we still have the bulk of the pie to be able to control it for our family. Because once you don't know how many home runs you're gonna get on this earth. You don't know. This might be my home run. I ain't fucking this up. This might be my only home run.
And you don't know when it's coming.
You don't.
Yeah.
So I tell everybody, I'm like, man, if you are working in a space and you come from a community that is, oppressed or, lacks confidence because of how historically you've been treated, your best shot is to bet on the unknown. You got to bet on the unknown, because if you bet on the unknown and it turns into the known and you're positioned the right way, you're in a different type of conversation for your bloodline, for yourself, for your family. But if you don't bet on the unknown, what you got to lose? They already done fucked us. So it's no need to be safe now. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was always like, yeah, I don't really buy into that. This 100% or nothing is temporary as a motherfucker because I've experienced it. So that's like the baseline of it.
And it's hard to know how long it's going to be temporary. But once it comes full circle and you have that full pie, you win.
Yeah, I mean, once it hits. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I've always felt like, and this might be arrogant of me, because I would look at other people's experiences. I ain't doing nothing for 10 years and not getting paid off of it. Nothing. I don't give a fuck what it is. If I'm going to spend 10 years of my life, probably by year 3, I got me some checks. I'm not doing that. So I would hear people be like, I've been trying to be in the music business since I was 17 years. I'm like, you've been trying to be in this shit, this fake ass shit for 17 years? Not a doctor, not a president. And I've heard that so many times. I'm like, I don't think you probably should be doing something else then.
You can hustle the wrong way. You can be in a space going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Your GPS is off.
Yeah, that's the treadmill.
But I also think that's a real thing in the music business, that people don't necessarily know direction.
No, because it's too much information. Mm-hmm. It's too much information. You can literally work on something. Like, let's say if you spend that. Now, the person that was trying to be in the business for 17 years, by this time they like 38. Yeah. They don't spend 15 of them years making music. They exceptional at making music, but they so disconnected from the other parts of it that now nobody don't want to take a chance on you because you're 38. You incredible, but you're 38. So the thought process of trying to like have a well-rounded grind in the music space is important. Cause that's why I'm like, what? I'm learning everything. I'm not doing this shit for 10 years. I ain't making no money. That ain't gonna make sense to me. Cause by year 5, I'm in the mirror like, hey man, you ain't even met nobody. That can you ain't even met nobody that making no money. You were like, what is we doing? So literally, I started officially working in the music space in 2008. I started studying publishing in 2007. I started studying publishing. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna start studying publishing. They said that's how you make the money. Because you gotta find out how you gonna make the money. That's like the rules. So when I started studying publishing and performing rights organization and pub deals and all of these different things, I was staying with a friend named Top Cat, and Top Cat was a producer, but he really was a manager. He really was a hustler. The nigga really didn't produce. He was one of them niggas that like, you produce the beat, I'll get it placed, but we produced it together. Like he was one of them type of niggas, right? And so, and a lot of his deal terms, they wasn't as fair, right? Like even then, I was like, this don't feel, this ain't unfair. I didn't know nothing about the music business. He would sell beats like they his, and like would give the producer 10%. Like the producer was the manager. Like I was so confused. I was like, bro, this is, I can't be around this too long. But I learned what not to do from Shawty, right? And during that process of staying with him, I literally was working with these producers, and the two producers that I was working with, one of them is the one that brought me Forte Bowie, and then another one of them, I just talked to him the other day. He's been producing with Bryson Tiller for a minute. So these are the first niggas I ever decided to work on, right? And so through that process, working with Top Cat, end up making a really good relationship with this producer named Natural Disaster. And Natural Disaster produced Turn My Swag On. And so I watched that whole shit happen. This is my first 6 months in the music business. I've watched success. I've watched like harsh and like very, very unfair contracts. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Like, okay, don't do that, But that's 2008. By the summer of 2013, which is, 5 years later, I was making money. I was brokering deals. I was managing producers. I was hustling. I had already met people along the way that was making money. Because the first person that I started staying with, he was making money off the music business. So I was there like asking him questions. Like he was making a lot of money selling beats to independent producers. Independent artists and like consulting. I was like, dang, okay, so you can make some money consulting. But I was just like, you got to figure out how to make some money, because if you don't figure out how to make no money, you really can't defend yourself. You find yourself in like uncomfortable positions all the time because you can't, you in a situation and you can't like remove yourself from the situation. You got to fuck you money. Gotta have that.
Tell them what fuck you money is, Ty.
Fuck you money is a strategy. Fuck you money is a strategy that you use discipline, planning, and saving mechanisms so that you can remove yourself from situations that don't service you, physically, mentally, and financially. So, it's very, my sister, she'll never say fuck you money. She'd be like, FY, she just said the acronym. Fund money for you. Fund money. She'll say something, but she won't say fuck you money. But it's meant to be very aggressive, because inside that's how you really feel. If something is bothering you to the point where you feel like you got to remove yourself from it, yeah, you're like, man, fuck you. That's how I feel. I can't really project. Nope.
So Fuck You Money is also a show me and Ty do together through the platform AMP that Amazon has. And I remember when Amazon reached out to us about the show, they asked us about a name, and Ty was like, Fuck You Money. I was like, Amazon's like, let us call the show Fuck You Money. There's no way they're gonna let that fly. They did.
They definitely let it fly.
Still can't run ads, but
we had to alter the
we had to
alter the creative.
But that's something
that's building the business 101. Censorship. Don't fuck your shit up before you start.
Yeah, we was like 3 months in. I was like, I've got to break this.
Blocked like a motherfucker.
But I always appreciate Ty's aggression when it comes to his ideas, because he always wants to be able to be safe. He always wants to be able to protect himself and protect the community. And you can't protect yourself not being aggressive. If you just take it to the chin, you take everything to the chin, eventually you're going to get knocked out.
Yes, definitely going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
That's
so
glass chin.
Glass chin.
Glass chin.
Do you feel like, in the music business especially, that artists have to be able to fight for what they demand? Their rights, their money. Like
the community do.
Yeah.
The community do.
Go ahead.
The artists can't fight by themselves. The community got to be able to fight. So that's why it's important. That's why community building around art is important, because the artists, yes, they're making the art, right? But they have so many other people around them. They feel a lot more confident when they know the community is going to walk away from the table too. But I got motherfuckers that fuck with me when I say, I ain't fucking with that. Shit, bro, I ain't fucking with it either, boy. Throw it away. It ain't really about the money, because if we really honest as humans, bro, we want to be around people that love us. And yeah, there has been a lot of cases where people have used money to screw people over. But in the aspect of it, though, if you can start building a community where the core of the people have a certain level of ideology, it's just gonna spread, especially when people see that it's successful. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got producers, when that stem hit, we be like, that stemmy just hit. You new to the crew, you just got jumped in. What that bank look like? You know what I'm saying? And so if I call them and I said, hey, we not fucking with that, that's wild, they're gonna be like, I bet we're not fucking with it. Because when you with a community, I was having this thing, I was talking about this the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to. We was talking about evolution. And I was telling somebody, and we was talking, and the evolution of the human being able to fall down and get up on their own, right? And I told him, I said, is that good though? And it was like, why? Why you say that? I said, if an individual can fall down and get up on their own, what do they need a community for? So the evolution of the individual has advanced the individual, but it has demoted the community value.
Interesting. So you feel that we should evolve by picking each other up?
Yes. Yes, bro. I'm only here because of community sharing. We used to stay in the same, bro. We used to stay in Fabe. Listen, Fabe had a 1-bedroom apartment in North Hollywood, right by the train station. As soon as you get off the train station, boom. Bro, he would invite everybody there. Do you realize how difficult it was sitting on the couch, hearing him in his room like, oh man, y'all can just come stay here. And it's already 5 people there. I'm just like, bro, you gotta chill, bro. Like, it ain't enough room. Your landlord gonna come and kick everybody out. But he was just so open to just share that space. So people were staying at the studio. I ain't never not. Fabe could have sold dope all I know. I didn't know how Fabe made money. I was like, yo, how you paying for the studio? Then he got the apartment. Everybody standing in the studio. People standing in the apartment. But it was he made nobody pay no rent. He ain't make you buy groceries. I would feel guilty and shit. I'm in that bitch cleaning up like on the maid, washing dishes and shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like cleaning up his bathroom. Like, but this nigga just, I feel like he gonna explode one day and just kick everybody out because his shit's so messy. It was for real, bro. I had a girl, about my ex-girlfriend at the time. I would leave on the weekends and take a train from North Hollywood to Long Beach, nigga. And that's 2 trains. Shit take an hour and a half. To get away from all those penises, nigga, it was just too many. I was just like, bro, I can't do this. I gotta but he is the definition of like that sharing. So like when I came to him with Brent, he put all the producers around it. He knew all the producers. I didn't know all the producers. Literally, he was like, I'm gonna put this person here, this person. All of that shit.
Producers and studio.
Yes. And songwriters.
And that's how you guys made A in Paradox, correct? The first EP?
Mm-hmm.
So none of that happens without Fabe.
Hell no. Fabe and Pablo Dillon.
Yeah, Pablo. Yeah. Talk about Pablo a little bit.
Pablo was an interesting character. So the funny thing about all of this story, right? So our first single that we put out with Brent was Invite Me. And it wasn't because it was the best record. It was because of the story that was attached to the record. And so when he first came to LA, he got off a plane and he went straight to Pablo's house. And Invite Me was the first record he ever recorded in LA, us working together. But the thing about it is, Pablo stays with his parents in the Hills because Pablo's Bob Dylan's grandson.
I thought he just had a cool name. I thought Pablo Dylan was like a rapper. When he told me it was Bob Dylan's grandson, I was like, how do you know him?
It's bro, like Grace. Like, that's one of his favorite. I met Pablo Dylan. First of all, level set. I'm a nigga from South Side of Atlanta, Georgia. Went to Forest Park High School. I don't know nothing about Bob Dylan. I know songs that I was familiar with because I heard them shits on TV or doing some iconic film in credits, but had no clue who the fuck Bob Dylan was. Lil Kiki, yeah. Bob Dylan, no. Bob Marley, yeah. Bob Dylan, no. So just start there. Right. So when I met Pablo through I can't his name right, but it's Outkast engineer. You know what I'm talking about. At the W, and he was meeting me. He was meeting the engineer, and I just so happened to be meeting the engineer at the same time. He's like, "You should come. You can meet this kid Pablo." He's like, "He's Bob Dylan's grandson." I'm like, all right, this what's up. Once again, I don't know who this person is. So I meet the kid, and we probably interfaced for 3 minutes before he was like, he had his engineer with him, because he's at this time he's like 18 years old, 19 years old, with his own engineer follow him around, right? Like he's almost like a day-to-day person with his engineer. And he looked at his phone. He was like, "Yo, Darren, we gotta go." At the time, he was interning for Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin had hit him to go to the joint, right? So me and Pablo formed a relationship because I would just bring all of the black artists from Atlanta that came to LA. I would just bring them up to the studio, so they just record. And like he just was like really, because he was working on a bunch of Rick Rubin shit, but he felt like, man, I want to still connect with like developing artists. So I would just always bring artists by. And so that first session, bro, we're at the session and we're working, and the keyboard player for James Taylor pulls up. He's playing keys on Invite Me. That's what people don't know. This nigga, first of all, level set. I don't know who the fuck James Taylor is at that particular time. Right. Pablo is just so casual. He's like, "Oh man, my friend that plays keys for James Taylor, he's gonna come by." And obviously Brent knew who it was. Right. And so like this is the first song, fresh off the plane. Same, like all of these different things.
Oh, so this is his first time in LA, right?
Yes. First time in LA, first session. So over time, I started to get more understanding of who the fuck Bob Dylan was and how massive he was to the world of songwriting and just the world in general. But yeah, so Pablo and Fabe, it's more so Pablo, because truth be told, Fabe didn't see it until he heard Invite Me. He was like, "I get it. I completely get it." We got 5 minutes left.
Real quick, you mentioned how Fabe didn't get Brent at first. He wasn't the only one that didn't get it.
Yeah, no, it was all the men. All the men didn't get it.
And I think that's the thing. You got to find who understands, right? How important is that?
I mean, it's important to find your audience for any business person. Let's just remove artists. Any business person that got something to sell, it's important to find your audience. You don't gotta know how they look, how they smell, how tall they are. You gotta really dive into it and really be intentional about what your audience is for the product that you're selling.
Absolutely. Any questions before we get up out of here?
So behind the scenes, you're somewhat notorious for mentoring a lot of young execs. I've just heard your name more in the undertones of the industry than in the public facing industry. What is it that attracts you to people that you mentor, and how are you I hear you talking about community a lot, so it seems to be in your DNA, but how do you seem to find the people that you're investing in?
They usually find me. You know what I'm saying? Like LaRussell. LaRussell found me. And like the DMs, I check my DMs and I respond based on how the messaging, like yo found me. I just be chilling. You know what I'm saying? And so
but don't be outside.
But I used to be.
Yeah.
When you start trying to do everything independently, you got time to be outside no more. You gotta learn all the jobs. But I usually, I just look for like very unique approaches. I just look at how I don't know, I can just read their conviction for whatever that is. I can just read it. And so a lot of the people that I've met throughout this journey or just helped, like blindly reached out, and I just was like, oh shit, I like what they said. Or like you can kind of feel what the conviction is in people's messages. Yeah.
How did you go about finding your mentor?
Yeah, the funniest shit. So one of my business partner, PK, he introduced me to my mentor like back in 2008. Like we went to Old National, and I had no clue who this person was. But then 3 years later, and I got introduced, I think, before I was even really doing music. Mm-hmm. But 3 years later, when I worked at Target, so I bought this camera to start shooting music videos, because at the time when I was managing the artists, I was like, I'm not paying no $2,000 for no music video. I'm gonna shoot this shit myself. So that was my bright idea, and there was terrible videos. But I would have this camera, and I would go to the club. And they nobody messaged you. This is what I learned. Security, nobody mess with you when you got a camera. Whatever the reason is, it's still like that today. And so Cersei noticed, my mentor, he noticed like me just being a hustler. So when he actually like connected with me, he was like, man, I remember you, from PK. And I was like, yeah, man. So he was sitting down. He was like, so tell me, like, what do you do? Like, what do you want to do? Like, are you trying to shoot music videos? I said, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know how to use this damn camera. I'm just trying to figure it out. Yeah. So that's how I met Cersei, which was my first mentor.
Did you ask him, or it just happened, just naturally?
It was him. It was him. Like, man, you should come work with me. You know what I'm saying? He said, I don't got no budget to pay you. He said, but I can introduce you to everybody that I know. And if you can get to the cities that I'm in, you don't got to worry about nothing. You got to worry about where you're going to stay at. You got to worry about nothing. So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh shit, if all I got to figure out is a plane ticket. Yeah. And at that time, I just so happened to work at Delta, seasonal, so I could fly free. Yeah, so I would just fly wherever. If it was in New York, wherever it was, I would go there. And I worked for the company. I never got paid, but I had a title, I had an email. For me, that was payment, because I really wasn't tripping off the money, more so that I'm like, bruh, tapped in. Like, we was like, a lot of the things that I experienced during that time frame was very, very important. And some of those relationships are still there that I learned, I made through that time frame.
And you kind of skipped, I think, a very important part of the Vincent story is when he saw Ty in the club, he didn't really remember you from the PK day, right? Yep. He just saw a guy with a camera, and Ty had told him, like, oh yeah, I can shoot videos for you. And then that's when he invited him. He invited him because he got you on text, right? Y'all were texting. And he told him to come to the studio. And that's when Ty told him that he didn't know how to use the camera.
Had to come clean.
And Vincent was impressed. He was like, oh, this is a guy that's going to get in. He's going to outthink you. That's what he's in the book. And when we talked, he was like, that's what he loved about Ty. He's like, Ty's going to figure it out. And he said Ty's going to show up and go to places. So that's why he hired Ty as an A&R, because he felt like this is a guy that's going to go out, find the talent, find the artists, find the producers, and really be in the mix. And from there, that really jumped you off because that was your first industry job. So your first mentor, your first job in the industry, all came because...
I would say
internship, right?
You wasn't getting paid. You got to get paid to get a job.
But you were working, though.
I was working. It's a good internship, though.
Everybody has that like homie that believes in them, as an artist. So for people who, want to become a manager, what advice would you give to them? Things you should say, books read.
Learn, man. Definitely learn. Definitely read the Coach Playbook. Ask questions. Ask questions. One of our downfall as human race is that we don't ask enough questions. If you can get the confidence to ask any question, you're going to be successful. You got to work. You still got to work. That don't replace the work. But if you, like, a lot of the time, we just be like sitting there shrinking when we know we don't know that question. And it might be somebody in the room that can answer it for you, that can actually help you progress, because you don't know. A lot of the times you don't know what question to ask, which is cool. That's fine. But just ask questions, because you might end up hitting that question, or the person that you're talking to might be able to say, oh, I think I know what you're trying to get to, but you don't have the experience of the words, but your spirit is like trying to connect and get that information in a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the first thing I would say is like, start with information, start building with people that you've actually serviced. Come to be a servant to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to show up and be helpful for what people are doing. And then that is like you planting these, I believe in karma, you know what I'm saying? Good and bad. So everything that I do, I have an intention on how do I serve the relationship. I don't just be like, hey, how you doing? What you do for a living? Like that shit, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I've had full-blown conversations with people in first class or in places like this, and I walk away, don't even know their name, but they end up remember that experience, and they may end up finding my email or finding my whatever. But try to see how you can service the relationship. Because if you become an expert at servicing relationships, then you have a higher chance of really working successfully with artists. Yeah, we got some.
Yeah, we got some in the back.
We got the bricks.
We got bricks. We had a question in the
Question
back.
back here.
Yo, I love what you said about the camera. I just moved here from Chicago, and I've gotten into some crazy rooms just off the strength of the camera, bro.
Bro, that camera
I don't
crazy.
know how to use it. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but it's got me into some
That
crazy
Rebel
spaces.
T1.
But that's facts. But okay, so you said two things that have stuck out to me. You talked about albums being houses. I think that analogy is genius. You also talked about evolvement, but with the music landscape evolving so rapidly because of tech, I'm curious how you feel about singles and artists just pushing singles instead of just doing full albums, like to start out.
Well, I'm an album type of guy because I'm a storyteller at heart. I like a good story, and unless you have those singles planned out on how you're gonna tell the story, you're not developing depth for your fans. Fans want depth. It's too much surface. It's 60,000 songs come out a day. I don't know if it's 60,000 albums come out a day, but it's 60,000 songs come out a day. I should get that information, how many albums come out a day.
Yeah, let's see. We'll find it.
Yeah. But when you start looking at it, when you put out 4 albums, you already are ahead of the curve of like connectivity with your fans. Because now they can come in like learn about you in a very different way than the artist that's putting out a song every month or every other month or every whatever the case may be, So that's me personally. Either one of them can make you a lot of money if it hits. But if the album hits, now the story hits. If the song hit, the song hit. You know what I'm saying?
Any other questions? Last call for questions.
Well,
Just so y'all know, Ty here is his be of service is like something that people don't understand how far that could go. So Ty owns equity in probably about 6 or 7 of my albums, as well as some viral freestyles, because he came in solely of service. Like he literally came in and was like, man, what you need help with? And I told him what, and he didn't make me explain how I was going to do what I was going to do or when I was going to deliver, what I was going to. He didn't ask me for none of that shit because he just believed in it. And now it's like he's going to be making revenue, for the rest of his life as my career grows, just because he was of service and he truly believed. Like when people come in and they like, I want to help you, but you need to give me this roadmap of everything you're going to do. It's like, bro, that's not true servitude. That's like, they're just trying to get something in exchange for it. There's no sacrifice in that. Like they know what they're getting, but he was truly just like, I just want to help. And through being of service is like, just like with Brent and with myself and so many other artists, like he's always going to win because he wasn't, he wasn't expecting anything out of it. He just wanted to see me score. It was just alley-oop. Let me see you dunk, So that's very important for everyone here. Like sometimes you don't have to be the front man or the artist or whatever. You could just be of service, and there's so much to gain in that. There's so much winning when you want to see other people win and score. Like, that's a victory as well. Like, watching my
1,000%.
homie shoot the three and make it, that's a win as well, you know?
Yeah.
What's up?
No, I appreciate you, Lil Russ. One more for the road.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
How do you prevent burned out? Like, you're pouring and serving and just like building and building and building, and sometimes can be lonely, sometimes can be like just that you just pour out so much. How do you prevent being burned out in those scenarios?
I'm assuming you're meaning like burnt out, just like you're tired. I live a life that's very like centered, right? And so I have intentionality about what I do every single day. So I'm not getting burnt out because I'm intentional. You get burnt out when you all over the place. I'm not all over the place. I'm very intentional on what I do every single day, you know, every single month, every single human. So when I hear about the burnout thing, it's a mental thing, but it also is an organization thing, you know, and I feel if you are intentional about your day-to-day actions, that means that you're running your race and you're going to service people on the way of your race, but you're running your race. So I don't get burnt out because I'm very intentional. If I don't want to talk to you, I ain't motherfucking talking to you. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how big your song is. I don't care who your daddy. If I don't have no intention, and it happens to me all the time, and I probably got people that don't like me and think I'm an asshole, but because I'm intentional about my energy, because I know that you can get burnt out. I know when you're trying to service people and you don't even know how many people God is going to put on your plate this week to service. You got to save that shit. You can't be out here just talking to somebody just because they got a hot record or they're big executives. I've had plenty of executives email me and be blowed because their ego kick in and they're used to people responding. And I'm like, I'd rather respond to the person that I ain't ever met before who just sent me a 3-paragraph email telling me what they plan is and what they've already achieved, and like they are inspired by what they've seen us do. I'd rather respond to that person because I feel like my intentionality is gonna come back to me in a different way because they feel more innocent and pure in their approach. So yeah, I think intentionality is very key to not get burned out in this business. Is that one more?
We
In some of those early, days of being a manager where you didn't have that much money, or some of those day-to-day things that you would do to like push them, move the needle.
Man, I probably send out about 1,000 emails a week. Cold emails, people I know. I work like so when Yo had to follow me around for 2 months while we was writing this book. So it was funny because he was just like talking to his mom. He was like, she was like, y'all up early, like, cause mama this nigga gonna leave me.
Yo,
and so it was like really, really for me, it's this desire to win. And so for me, I ain't losing. So when I didn't have people that cared, it didn't matter. I cared. So if I find a new email, I'm emailing them, cold calling. I would look and see, they was at this event last night. I couldn't get in, but I was outside. So I'm gonna tell them I was in and see if they remember that they met me. They really didn't, but they might think they did. But just the thought process of me knowing like, I'm gonna put this in the subject line. That person just was at this event last night. And they're more likely to respond. Just sitting and thinking, because that's what you have when you don't have like people that, you don't have a popping thing. You gotta think your way out of it or into it.
I didn't have a question. I just had a comment and just
Comments are welcome as well. Prayers too, all that.
hey, I got all that for you, but just wanted to just reaffirm you. I think sometimes we don't get opportunities like this to reaffirm men and people in general in these kinds of spaces. And so grateful for you being here. Wishing you all the goodness and mercy and grace and favor. You've dropped a ton in our environment. And so we just want to thank you for that and hope that it comes back to you tenfold.
I was thank you. I appreciate it. I was looking at Zillow when I was riding. I was like, I'm buy a house out here. I was like, what's going on out here? Seems pretty interesting.
We good?
Yeah, I'm good. You know, I can talk. You know, we can do this.
Oh yeah, we do another hour.
We'll
talk all day. Well, we got books in the back, so if you guys see this, you want to cop a copy, let us know. You know, might sign something. Ty got his pen on him.
You know, I keep the pen on me.
Want to thank y'all for sitting with us, listening. Hope you got something out of this. Hope to see you again.
Thank you.